Hello and welcome again to the Writer Review. This is Eric Carrot Writer, and this week we're going to be taking a look back at the 2019 drama titled, it's a drama movie titled The Goldfinch. Now the Goldfinch runs for 2 hours and 29 minutes long. It is directed by John Crowley. It is produced by Nina Jacobson and Brad Simpson. The script was written by Peter Strawn. It is based off of the I think it's a Pulitzer Prize winning novel, which was at the top of the charts for a good portion of a year, also titled The Goldfinch by Donna Tartt. It is composed by Trevor Gurekis. The cinematography was by the legendary Roger Deakins, and it was edited by Kelly Dixon. And the stars of the movie are Ansel Elgort, Oaks Fegley, Aneurin Bardnard, Finn Wolfhard, Ashleigh Cummings, Willa Fitzgerald, Amy Lawrence, Ryan Foe, Sarah Paulson, Luke Wilson, Jeffrey Wright, Nicole Kidman, Denis O'Hare, Boyd Gaines, Peter Jacobson, Robert Joy, Luke Kleintank, Gordon Winterick, Nikki Torchia, Haley Wist, Robert Turano, and Samuel Yap. Based on a Pulitzer Prize-winning novel by Donna Tartt, The Goldfinch is about Theodore Deckert. The younger version of him was played by Oaks Fegley. The older version was played by Ansel Elgort, whose life takes an unexpected turn as his mother dies in an explosion at the Metropolitan Museum of Art in New York City due to a crazed terrorist attack. While she dies, he ends up being the survivor, and of course the cause of the explosion was done by an act of terrorism. The tragedy of the events changed the outlook of his life as he experiences heartbreak, grief, guilt, redemption, and rejuvenation. Through the course of this emotional roller coaster ride of his life, he holds with him a painting of the famous painting of The Goldfish by Dutch artist Karel Fabritius. And, it's just something that he has held on to due to his many years of feeling grief and sorrow over his mother's loss. He just really never quite gotten over his mother's loss. And throughout the course of the movie, this painting of a goldfish was just a grim reminder. And it's just something that he kind of... Well, I guess I'm not going to go out and say that he stole the painting. But however, he clinged on to it. Even though it is owned and it is property of the Metropolitan Museum of Art. To him, the painting is something that he clings on to as a grim reminder of the tragic events that had changed and will forever change his life. Of course, he goes through all kinds of in and outs and weavings of his life. Through the people who he hangs around with, to the people who were involved in his life. Some were good, some were bad. But in the end, the Goldfinch was something that he just clung on to, and he never was ever able to fully let go. I mean, I'm not going to say that Theo Decker is really exactly what you would call a model, likable protagonist. I mean, he also has done some pretty underhanded, antagonistic stuff. But you do feel bad throughout him during his whole emotional roller coaster ride. Because, his battles with depression and his clinging on to this Goldfinch painting takes you throughout and never really fully lets go. Under the direction of John Crowley, the Goldfinch does succeed in so many ways, but it's not because it's a cinematic masterpiece. I'm not saying that it was, a one-of-a-kind type of movie, because there are a lot of red herrings in this movie. And it's not a cinematic masterpiece, but the reason why it succeeds in so many ways because it had so much potential to be one as a masterpiece as the film goes by. But sadly, due to a badly done script, the film ends up becoming convoluted and incoherent. Maybe if it was told in, a more, I guess you could say, if it was done in a more structured way by, going from his young childhood to his adulthood, maybe then I probably would have liked it better. But it keeps segueing from many different aspects of his life that it becomes all too fragmented and confusing. That's one of the reasons why this movie failed. I mean, it had so much going for it. If it would have been, structured from his younger days to his adulthood, maybe I would have liked it a lot more. Surely the Goldfinch definitely had the right fundamentals to get the attention of the people when the awards ceremonies were around the corner. The direction from John Crowley was very well executed, and the cast featured some top-notch performers from well-known actors like Nicole Kidman, Luke Wilson, and Sarah Paulson, and relative unknowns like Oaks Fegley managed to actually turn in some really good performances. And of course, we can't ignore the brilliant cinematography by one of the best in the business, namely the legendary Roger Deakins, who is probably maybe one of the greatest cinematographers in our modern time period. So like I said, I wanted to praise this movie a lot more. And like I said, there are a lot of things to praise about. But because of the badly done script and the confusing plot lines and the poor structuring, going from one scene to another scene without really ever taking the time to ingest those moments, this movie kind of falls flat on its face. And we just can't seem to pick it up because it doesn't seem to know when to get its shit together. I mean, like I said, there's a lot to appreciate about the Goldfinch, no question about it. But it was the script that really ruined the making of what could have been an Oscar-caliber film. Donna Tartt's novel met with a lot of positive reviews due to its intriguing story, remarkable characters, and moments that will likely catch you off guard. But all the quirks that made Miss Tartt's novel fascinating doesn't seem to manifest well on the big screen. Sometimes you often get the feeling and the wonder, do all successful novels, whether it be fiction or non-fiction, really necessarily have to be adapted into a movie? Sometimes not all novels necessarily have to go that direction that, oh, hey, it's successful. A lot of people like it, so why not let's just take the book, adapt it, and make it into a movie. In those kind of situations, it could be either hit or miss. This one should have been a hit, but ended up being a big fat miss. Other things that also didn't sit well is that the dialogue feels drab and mundane, and it's just used as a tool to keep the film running. For a film with a 2-hour and 30-minute runtime, everything felt rushed, giving little time to absorb the characters and the plot. Which is too bad because the acting was really good. Even the younger actors too, like Ansel, Elgort, Aneurin, Bardnard, Finn, Wolfhard. These guys also have a lot of potential in them if they continue their career paths in the acting industry. But they could never really quite get that feeling of reassurance because we never get to fully get invested into the characters and their performances, because it seems that it always seems to just rush from one scene to another, and we never hesitate to get really invested in the characters and the plot, which is too bad because they are interesting. But we just never feel it. It's also a shame that the film has so many scenes, but there's very, very little to remember. The material was definitely there to make something great, only to discover that in the end, there was very little that came out of it. Now, am I saying that 2 hours and 30 minutes of my life have been taken away that I'll never get back? No. In fact, I hate it when people say that. It really makes my blood boil. But to be honest with you, the material that came with the movie really doesn't have anything that can remotely stand out. There's not really a memorable scene that makes me want to talk more about or to get, to get into it. Because I never really ever got a chance to get into it because they never gave us any reason to. They never gave us the time. And sure, it pays respect to the author, and the scenes featured are handled with care, but the emotional tug never fully materializes. I also found that the editing and the musical backdrops to be a bit eccentric. Even at times, it gets on my fucking nerves. It's just that the quick cuts tend to become too frequent to the point where you end up in a bed of mass confusion. I had no objection with the performances featured here. Also, I gotta give, like I said, Ansel Elgort gives an especially amazing performance as the adult Theo Decker. In his young career as a performer, Decker has performed wonderfully in roles like Baby Driver and The Fault in Our Stars. And here he delivers equally impressive scenes, and the others in the ensemble were also very good in what material was given to them, like Nicole Kidman, Finn Wolfhard, and Sarah Paulson. It's a shame that their talent was wasted on mediocre material. And even though it's not a character, but could still play off with a character, is that the cinematography from the legendary Roger Deakins just sometimes goes to show that whatever he touches turns to gold. He has been responsible for creating some of the most beautiful scenery in films like the James Bond movies Skyfall and Blade Runner 2045 and No Country for Old Men. All classics, thanks to mostly because of his cinematography. I mean, he could film paint dry and make it look stunning in detail. The shots featured in this movie are quite tantalizing, and there is never a mundane piece of scenery, which is a relief on all cylinders. If anything that stands out, aside from the performances and the direction, is the cinematography. And I gotta give credit where credit is due for Roger Deakins. So aside from the great cast and the majestic cinematography from Roger Deakins, The Goldfinch is a plodding, boring film that for a 2.5 hour film actually feels like an eternity. Also, once the rolling credits ends, you'll probably forget about what you just saw. So in the end, it just goes to show you it's better to just read the book and just say to hell with the movie. Just read the book and scrap the movie. And believe me, it is a good reading. So, all due respect to Miss Tart, I just wish that this adaptation could have been executed better, and I'm sure it probably would have if the script was paid just as much respects to your novel. So when all is said and done, if I was to give this movie a scale out of 10, I know this is going to be a little bit more of a shorter review because I really don't have a lot to say about this movie because it's really overall quite forgettable. But if I was to give this movie a scale out of 10, I would have to give The Goldfinch a 5 out of 10. I'm sorry. So I guess this ends my writer review. Thank you all for listening in. If you wish to subscribe to my YouTube channel, please feel free to do so. If you wish to leave a comment, go right ahead, but just remember the 3 simple rules. Be kind, be courteous, and please refrain from any rude comments, and I will be back again with another movie review. So until next time, this is Eric Carrot Writer saying, keep watching those movies, and I'll see you around. Goodbye.